Bye.
Bye. Thank you for coming, Siddharth. Says to you also from there.
Very good. Follow the wire. Jump
Thank
the
you,
wire.
Betaji.
Jump the wire.
Ma'am, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
So Jasleen, we're just waiting, we're just letting in people. Yeah, people are signing in. So we'll just wait for a couple of minutes to let everyone in.
Would you not like to get a chair?
Oh, it's okay.
Because there is that other chair that can be brought.
Oh, okay. I'll just get it.
Okay.
Right. So we're just waiting everyone, for a minute or two to let others also join in, and then we'll start in a few seconds.
I'm sorry, your voice is not coming very clear, Siddharth.
Yeah.
If you can just speak a little slower.
I will.
And perhaps enunciate your words a little.
And not eat up my words. I'll do that.
You are very well trained.
But I thought Jatin had done a good job, but I'm not so sure.
Lot of trouble to the children. Mama. Sure.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you. As all of you know, JDC is envisioned as a unique art center that aims to preserve and exhibit its large collection of folk, tribal, traditional, and contemporary art, all under one roof. It is currently under construction in Bhubaneswar, Odisha, opposite the 2nd century Khandagiri caves. Meet the Artist is a permanent in-house program of JD Center of Art, where invited artists, craftspersons, or scholars, through their illustrated presentations, create an appreciation of all forms of visual art. Since 2001, 242 such Meet the Artist programs have taken place on the 2nd Saturday of every month. Currently, our sessions are being held online. We're delighted to have textile expert Jasleen Dhamija on the warp of my life for the 243rd Meet the Artist program. It is our 6th online session, which till March this year was being held at the JD Center of Art, Bhubaneswar, uninterrupted for the last 19 years. Jasleen Dhamija is an internationally renowned specialist of living cultural traditions. She began her work in 1954 with the Government of India on development of handicrafts and handlooms. She worked with the United Nations Development Program in Iran and then across West, Central and Southeast Asia, Africa and the Balkans. She has advised many governments and international NGOs. She was awarded the Hill Professorship, University of Minnesota, and has lectured extensively at universities across the world. She was the guest editor for Marg Art Journal, Mumbai in the 1960s, and has authored over 20 publications on Indian, Iranian, and South Asian living culture and textiles. She has contributed to many publications and encyclopedia. She's organized major exhibitions, including The Woven Magic, Affinity Between Indian and Indonesian Art, 5,000 Years of Indian Textiles, Manila National Museum, Power Cloths of the Commonwealth at the Commonwealth Games at Melbourne and New Delhi, the exhibition of sacred textiles at International Festival of Sacred Arts, New Delhi, Dhamija was also the president of International Festival of Sacred Arts, Delhi, and the co-chairperson for Handloom Development Working Group for the 12th Planning Commission. Uh, in the last few days, I've had the privilege of spending a fair amount of time with Jasleen Dhamija, and it has been an incredible privilege. And I naturally met her and spent quite some time with her 15 years ago. And over to you, Jasleen, if you'd like to say something. Can you hear me, Jasleen?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, lovely. Would you like to say something before we start your presentation?
Well, I'm very happy to present my impressions, my life with the woven fabrics, not only in India, but all over the world, because I had the privilege to work with international organizations. And I hope to share my love of textiles and share my fascination with. And as I have thought of talking on the warp of my life, and it goes to show how much fabrics have meant for me. And I thank Jatin for asking me to speak, and for Siddharth. And I hope that I will convey my love of fabrics to you and win you over and make you one of the most involved people in the fabric of our life.
Thank you, Jasleen. So we'll start the presentation.
I'm delighted that I've been asked by Jatin Das, the creator of the JD Center of Arts, to speak on the very element of my life, the warp of my life, woven fabrics. I'm beginning with an old family photograph when Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, our first Prime Minister, came to our family house in Ahmedabad, in Zilla Hazara, and had breakfast with my granduncle and grand aunt, who are seen seated in this image, in this picture. And there is also Abdul Ghaffar Khan, whom I adored and who was loved very much by him. And I'm sitting here in his lap. And many of the family members who looked after all of us. And later on, when Gandhiji came and stayed for 40 days with us, all the women were there making life easy and beautiful for him. We had the privilege of knowing many of the people who fought for independence. And maybe this early childhood beginning with the spirit of the movement of independence made me closely involved with the cultural traditions of my country. I am glad that we opened this with the images which represent the entire historical background as expressed through its textiles. Textiles are the oldest technology which was developed by the human race as they moved from hunting to food gathering and a more settled economy. In India, the vocabulary and imagery of philosophical thought is taken from textile technology. Yantra, the esoteric design used for meditation, is derived from the Sanskrit word for the loom. Sutra is to the stringing together of threads and plaiting them, a word which is used for Buddhist texts. Grantha is the sacred sutras put together. The main warp beam used in the weaving is known as stamba, the axis mundi. Tantra is a form of tensile warp. It is thus that textiles are an essential part of the rituals and rites of passage. The Indian subcontinent has a range of traditional textiles which reflect the varying landscapes. There is the lush green tropical Bengal in the east, where the white cotton with its multiple textures dominate. The fine muslin known as the woven clouds, Nebula Venti. Kerala in the south is where they dress in the natural off-white cotton with golden thread embellishments, which are used by the women for their ritual mundu kesawa sari, which is the finest of which is created by the well-known weaving shop, the Karalakudi. The rich Gangetic plain has brilliant golden rich patterns used as wedding and festival saris. There are also the fine quality cotton chanderi and maheshwari woven with beautiful patterns in brilliant colors. The stark desert landscape of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and parts of Maharashtra, where the landscape is compensated by the use of clear, brilliant colors and a mirage-like effect created with the use of mirrors in the embroidery. Brilliant earth colors of the Deccan and the South Indian temples vary from contrasting color contrasts of southern India. The temple saris, the puja saris, and here we have the auspicious orange and red color woven with the ritual for the ritual use of puja, as well as the temple saris with golden patterns which were presented to the temple. The Kashmir Valley with its natural beauty also has a rich tradition of fine woolen pashmina weaves with a soft palette of colors. The embroidery, the 19th century knitted bolster created in Kashmir are the specialities. And of course, there are the famous textiles of Ladakh. The oldest textile which was found clinging to the silver jar in the Harappan area, and that Harappan seaport, Lothal, was an important trading center which carried commodities nearly 4,000 years ago across the world. No textiles have survived, except, as I mentioned, the fragment, which was, while being processed, also lost. India was known for its permanent dyes, and similar dye wards found in Lothal are to be found being used in Gujarat dye houses even now, and they create the indigo blue color, which is known throughout the world. The printed cloths found in Fostat and Red Sea ports, as well as in the Southeast Asia, were found in ancient times and became an important part of the spice trade. It was also an important part of the trade with Central Asia, and merchant traveled from Multan to Sindh up to the northern Caspian area and supplied the needs of the nomadic people of Central Asia. A 5th century Greek physician commented about the importance of the brilliant colored cottons of India, which were a great demand in Iran. Muslin, the finely woven cotton, was in great demand throughout the world. And in the Roman world, it was known as nebula vendi, woven winds. The incredible fine quality of muslin, which was said to be even as fine as 1,000 counts, existed in the subcontinent since antiquity and was in demand the world over. The Arthashastra has a reference to it as well as to the Greek-Roman texts of 200 BC on trade, Peripulus of Erythraean Sea. India absorbed a number of technological trades through migrations and techniques which they learned from them. The Huns, the Scythians, and the nomadic people moved into the northern part of India, and throughout the textile traditions were absorbed. Over the years, India developed a range of techniques in cotton, silk, gold thread. The weavers of silk grew in wealth and donated to the making of important temples of the 10th century AD. The settlement and establishment of the Islamic courts led to the spread of the outside influence in a more organized manner. The Islamic court traditions of Tiraz factory, Dar al-Tiraz, which were ateliers for weaving of ritually pure cloths such as kiswa and the kaba, which was introduced during the period. Syria was an important silk weaving center, as was Bukhara Sharif, and they influenced the Indian weaves. Ibn Battuta also traveled to India in the 14th century, talked of the Tiraz factory of the Sultan, where hundreds of weavers and embroiderers worked on royal robes. The Portuguese records throw a light on the situation from the end of the 15th century AD. And from the 16th century, the Mughal court chronicles gave us a very good picture of the situation of textiles, while the East India Company records maintained records of the 17th century onwards. Thus, the English came as supplicants for trade connections, became the rulers of the country. The import of merry-made textiles from England, and the adverse system of taxation on Indian textiles dealt a death blow to the handloom industry. The fine muslin was taxed at 44%, and the printed cloth was taxed at 88%, while the imported cloth from Manchester, from England, was taxed at 5%. Lord William Bentinck, the governor of central provinces, bemoaned the large-scale deaths of weavers because of the loss of their livelihood. He appealed to the British government to change their policies as the bones of the weavers bleached the plains of India. The famous Kashmir shawl saw its market dwindle because of the shawls woven on the jacquard loom in Lyon and Paisley, as well as the heavy taxation of the weavers in Kashmir. After independence of India, the government set up an organization, the All India Handicrafts Board and Handloom Board, with a dynamic woman, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, as its chairman. A program for revival and revitalization was set up, and a number of textile traditions which had become extinct, such as the pictorial weaves of Baluchars of Bengal. The Deccan had a range of rich weaves. The golden tapestry of Paitan, which is an ancient technique, traditional cotton, silk and gold gadwal, Kanchipuram, shimmering silks. In Gujarat, Northwest India, the most intricate weave, the double ikat patola, was woven, which had a market not only in India, but throughout Southeast Asia. Intricate tie-dyes, bandhas, twill woven brocade, the asavali of Gujarat was another specialty. The Chanderi and Maheshwari old patterns, as well as chikankari, white on white embroidery, Kashmiri amli shawls and crewels from upholstery was another specialty which was revived. Another important contribution has been research and promotion of vegetable dyes, which was being used in a number of centers throughout India, as well as in Bangladesh. A number of trained designers, studio weavers, and NGOs have done remarkable work in developing a range of products. The handloom sector as a whole was facing a difficult time. The number of looms have decreased substantially. But the last 30 years have shown a tremendous recovery, and India once again continues to produce some of the finest textiles of the world and has an incredible range of textiles. Master weavers, dyers, embroiderers have continued their traditions, and young designers emerging from design institutes have developed their life to enrich and revive the tradition. The data concerning handloom tells us that 90% of the handloom of the world are woven in India. The situation of the handloom industry has been very adversely affected by the COVID-19. A large number of persons employed throughout India have migrated from urban areas in desperation and have walked desperately towards their homestead. The World Bank estimates that within India, 40 million internal migrants have been affected. Many of those who walked back I hope will show the tenacity of reviving the textile traditions, and some of them have already started. I would like now to share with you some of the textiles I admire and what they mean to me. And I start with the Tree of Life, which has been created in Isfahan. The Tree of Life, which symbolizes the reaching out for the heavens, rising from the sacred mountain. The tree rises as a protective element for the whole world. An extraordinarily beautiful scarf, which is from Katyawar, where Nadir Shah comes from, where the weavers weave the most exquisite textiles, and they have a shrine in the middle to, in a way, tell us that this is a sacred scarf worn by the women. An extraordinarily beautifully embroidered Teke Turkmani woman's headdress. It looks like a cloak, but it's a headdress and is worn over their head. And some of the very fine, extraordinary pieces are worn, embroidered by the Turkoman people. Here is a very interesting, not very old, Turkoman embroidered man's coat. It is very similar to the ancient statue of Kanishka to be seen in the Mathura Museum. And the design, the style is very similar to this one, which I bought from a Turkomani horseman. And it's amazing how traditions don't change. Next. An exquisite dari woven by the women of Punjab, where I call it the tea for two. And they imitate the tea, which was an essential part of the settlers, the British settlers in the villages. And they are woven here in a way as if they are sharing their lives. Next. A most exquisite bag of multiple number of pigeons, kabutri bag as it was known. And the pigeon is supposed to be for fertility. And the woman has embroidered this perhaps for the bride to be given to her. Next. The Central Asia is known for its exquisite embroidery on hand spun and hand woven cotton. They would do this beautiful embroideries. And here, this is in a way a Suzani exposing the constellations and the creation of the solar world. Next. While in Kyrgyzstan, in Bishkek, I came across this exquisite hanging, which used to be hung in the tents of the migrating Kyrgyz of Kyrgyzstan. The exquisitely embroidered Neem Suzani. Neem means half or small Suzani. And it's floral. It's a very unusual piece. And it's the only piece that I have ever come across, which is embroidered on fine quality silk with silk embroidery in Tajikistan. And it is in a way like the Chamba embroidery, reversible. Next. The chope shawl with a dominant pattern of the peacock design was used in the multiple weddings ceremonies performed at the marriage. This is one of my favorite. It's called Darshan Dwar. It's the wishing place. It's the shrine doorways or the doorways of the temples, which was for appealing for wish granting, where they stand at the doorway of the Lord and promise to embroider a darshan dwar to ask for their wishes to be fulfilled. An extraordinary Sanchi with trains and village life and the life of the cosmos. Here you see 4 women sitting together and playing chopat, the kind of a ludo, which was rurally played by women and by men. And then there is the labyrinth on the left-hand side, if you see, where in the temple, worship is being carried on. The train which runs across the horizon, which makes the women long for their men who have left them for work. And then there are other things like jewelry, which you see over there, the head jewelry, which the woman has longed for and never had. And there is a double-storied on the right-hand side, where people show that they are living in those townhouses, unlike their village. And what you see on one side is, on each side, the trains and the smoke rising from it. And the man with the flag, he is the guard, the one who directs the movement of the train. Next. A very exquisite Zoroastrian ikat ritual souffle, which used to be used by them in the temple, the Zoroastrian temple, for offerings. Next. A very old hand-woven, hand-embroidered skirt worn by the Jat women of Haryana. And the motif is of the cypress tree, which represented the strength, generally associated with men. But here, when it is embroidered on the indigo-dyed skirt, it is worn to represent the strength of the women. The Bariya Rabari are the Kutchi people who migrate long distances with their animals in times when there is no water and there is drought, so in search of water for their animals. They make the most exquisite embroideries, as you can see over here. Next. The patchwork quilt Rali, which comes from Sindh, has exquisite patterns which are created here in applique and in the running stitch creating. It's interesting that the patchwork is essentially meant to preserve. And if you see if you remember that you saw the first image of the Mohenjo-daro head, the priest is wearing a kind of a shawl which has applique worked trefoil motifs. And so this is a very ancient tradition and of preservation as well as of celebration. Next. An extraordinarily beautiful Katyawar piece of embroidery known as Heer embroidery. Heer was silk. Now, what is very interesting is that Katyawar is where migrants from Central Asia and also those who perhaps moved from the Chinese borders and moved into Katyawar, created this embroidery. And in the middle is women churning the Amrit Manthan, as it's called, butter, but it also reflects the churning of the ocean, which is very interesting. And it's one of the oldest motifs. Notice the figures of the women, which is with its beak-like head. It's one of the favorite textiles of mine, and I found it very difficult to part with it. Next. This is also a Heer embroidery, Katyawar embroidery, which came and was brought from Central Asia and has common traditions with Fulkari, Gulkari, Bag, and Heer. This common stitches of the running stitch, where the silk spread itself and creates a silken velvet-like effect, gives it a richness which is appealing to all. Next. From Swat, a kurti, and it has exquisite embroidery used by the people of the northern part, bordering with Central Asia in Pakistan. Next. This is a Zoroastrian embroidered section of a salwar. The Zoroastrian were really discriminated against in Iran, and they could not even wear a complete full piece of cloth. They could only buy bits of leftover cloth which were stitched together and then embroidered, used by the Zoroastrian brides for their wedding clothes. Next. An exquisite chamba bodice with large floral motifs, which used to be worn under their odini, embroidered odini, and over their skirt, which is no longer used. And Chamba was known for its mostly hanging clothes, and also for square rumals with double-sided embroidery. Here you see a rural Chamba rumal of depicting the folk traditions of the Ras Leela. Next. Exquisite embroidery, worked in Isfahan, known for its dyes and for exquisiteness of painting the patterns. Next. A very extraordinary jajim, as it's called, a spread, which I was very lucky to find in Uzbekistan when I went to the when the Bushkushi, a form of a battle for the animal, as you can see here, which each man is trying to win away from the other and carry. And whoever is able to carry the animal to the post becomes the winner. And this jajim is woven by the women of the village where the Bushkushi takes place. And the winner is given this as a gift. Along with that, now he's given a nationally made Pekan car. Tulu is the earliest form of weaving of a carpet. It is from Anatolia, Turkey, in Turkey. And it's an exquisite form which people used to use to wrap themselves to keep themselves warm. The tassels are with the angora wool, which is in the Anatolian area. These exquisite and unusual Maldhari kurtis from Kutch were used by the local nomadic women and is being used even today. I'm glad to have spoken to you. I'm afraid I don't have the same energy that I had, but I have tried to share what I have. For textiles are the warp of my life, untied to the warp of my life. Some call it karma, some call it genes, some by other names. I do not fight it. I do not unravel it. I dye the weft with my dreams. I pluck on the multiple cords of my warp, weaving my dreams, my aspirations, my inner thoughts, till they resound as a raga of all longing. And I, the warp, the weft, all merge into the eternal ocean of our universe. Thank you.
Very good, very good.
Very nice.
I was losing hope in life. You know, all of you have been my role model. And it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. This young lady full of life, I think of Kamala Devi and you in the same fervor. Wonderful, wonderful. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Jasleen,
Ah,
can you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you, yes. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I
I
said,
can hear you.
I
How
said,
can you not hear you? We all have no choice.
you know, you people are role model. We started with energies borrowed from you, and many like you, Kamala Devi, and others. Wonderful.
Thank you, Jasleen. Thank you for a lovely, like the variety of things that you've collected, but also the variety of experiences you had. And I think for a lot of people, while I introduced you, one couldn't go into the kind of things you've done. Like you talked about how you spent 7 years in Iran, but you started with Government of India working in 1950s. And can you talk a little bit about just about how you started your first few years? Because that was probably with Kamala Devi and all of those people. And then the whole experience in Iran and Africa and Central Asia. If you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's a long life. And I'm very grateful to those who made it possible for me to enrich my life. Working with Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay was an experience in itself.
Yeah.
She was my guru. She was my mother. She was my teacher. And I learned a great deal from her. And then working all over India, moving with her, was absorbing the spirit of India. I feel as if the richness of my country, of my people, of my culture, my tradition, have been absorbed into my very being. And then I was fortunate to work with the international agencies, as well as with the voluntary organizations. And I worked for 7 years in Iran. And I came to know Iran as well as my own country, and love that country for the richness of its traditions and culture and its people. And I worked in Africa, in 21 countries, in the northern part of Africa. I was posted in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa. And from there, I traveled to northern Africa, Maghreb, an extraordinarily cultured people. And I was able to also visit fantastic countries and work with the people in Egypt, in Sudan. And one of the interesting things was that I worked in one of the most difficult African countries, Somalia. And it was known as the graveyard of the United Nations projects. And I was perhaps the only person who was able to set up a project for women's employment, which was successful. I worked I loved West Africa, and I worked there. And I worked in Southern Africa. I met so many extraordinary people, and they enriched my life. My work was enriching. I also worked in the places which were developed by the people as an expression of their traditions. I have had a rich life, met wonderful people. I mean, in Mexico, I met this wonderful woman who was responsible for reviving, like Kamala Devi ji, the cultural traditions of Mexico. And I met people like, even through friendships, like with Roberto Rossellini, and these people enrich your life when you meet with them. And I have an extraordinary number of friends, young and old, who have been my mentors. So thank you for letting me share my love of life and my love of people with you.
Wonderful.
Jasleen, there's a comment and a question from Dadi Padamji. He says, Jasleen, we collect all these through our life. They belong to humanity. What will one do with these collections eventually? From Dadi Padamji. Shall I repeat it?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? So Dadi Padamji has commented and asked a question saying,
Yes.
Jasleen, we collect all these through our life. They belong to humanity. What will one do with these collections eventually?
Well, I wanted that this collection should find a place. And Saffron Arts was able to auction. And I was so relieved that people who really love textiles acquired them. And some of them I gave to those who are lovers of textiles. And some which are left, I plan to give to other collectors. And one of them is Jatin Das.
Thank you. May I interrupt and suggest, why can't we all sponsor a Jasleen Dhamija collection museum? Why can't we do that? You know, there are a lot of people have made collections. If they are auctioned, if they are sold, they're scattered. It would be wonderful whether we can have a small museum in Delhi for Jasleen Dhamija collection. And let the government and the public and friends come forward to share it. I will contribute, and I would like to request everybody else to support.
No, it's not necessary. Because there are fantastic collections. There is the Calico Textile Museum.
Yes.
There are other textiles collections in Delhi and in other places. Jasleen is one individual who has this love for textiles. And I will share it. I've shared it in the number of books that I have written, in the encyclopedias to which I have contributed, I have nearly 100 lectures I've given all over the world. And I think I have done enough.
That's lovely, lovely. Now, others can do it for you. Good.
Lekha Bhagat has written Jasleen. Jasleen, oh Jasleen, how can we thank you for all the work you have done all these years to revive, preserve these treasures so that we can still see them, wear them. Thank you for this unbelievable feast. Your words, your thoughts, you are our national treasure. Our salams and respect and deep love.
Thank you.
She's a lovely person.
That's very kind.
If there are any questions that anyone has, please go ahead and ask them directly from Jasleen. Please feel free to ask any of you.
Any query, any question from anybody? Name the person.
I have a question myself, Jasleen. Can you talk about your experience in Africa also? Because you went to 21 countries and you talked about, how Ethiopia was your base. And you have these incredible sculptures from Mali, from different parts, Ghana in your house. Is there something that was remarkable that you felt stood out, which you cherish?
Well, it was very enriching to spend 4 years in Africa and to share their lives. One of the things which I forgot to mention was that I spent many times traveling, walking with the nomadic people in Africa, in Iran, in Central Asia, and in other parts. And that was a wonderful experience. Even my son, Yaman, has migrated with me. And I think that it has enriched him. Africa was a world unto itself. Each country had something to offer. I remember when I traveled in West Africa, when I went to Ghana, I had the good fortune to meet the chiefs, the king, and the singers, the filmmakers. They were an extremely talented people. Africa was a world apart. And I remember when I came back to India, I used to miss Africa. I used to miss the people and their warmth. I have friends in Mali, Aminata Traore, who became such a close friend of mine. I stayed with her. I can even today walk into her house and be welcomed. Extraordinary people like the potter from Ghana, and also wonderful people in Botswana, in Southern Africa. I loved Egypt. Extraordinary. And I loved the stories that they told. I loved the episodes of their life that they enlarged for us and shared with us. I missed Africa so much. And I looked, and I went to the libraries and searched for news of Africa, which I was missing so much. Iran had become a part of my life. Central Asia I traveled extensively. I was the head of a delegation which went to Central Asia soon after the breakup of Russia, and the countries, 5 countries which came apart. I loved traveling in Central Asia. It was really something quite extraordinary. And of course, there are so many things one has learned which I have not talked of here, where I traveled all over. In fact, I've traveled practically all over. I have traveled all over Southeast Asia. I have traveled out in South Asia. I have traveled in Japan, in China, in Korea. And I have so many friends from all these wonderful countries, the wonderful experts, people whom I respect, regard, and who have enriched my life for me.
Lalit Mansingh has a question for you. Lalit Mansingh has a question for
Hello,
you.
Lalit.
Hi, Jasleen ji. Thank you for that splendid presentation. It was fascinating. I want to thank you for referring to Africa because, like you, I spent 2 years in West Africa, in Nigeria, Benin, Chad, and Cameroon. And I was absolutely immersed in their arts and crafts when I was there. But my question is not about Africa. My question is about Southeast Asia. I don't know if you ever met the German textile historian, Buehler, whose collection is there in the Rietberg Museum in Zurich. Now,
Yes.
Buehler went throughout Southeast Asia and collected samples of ikat from the Philippines to Thailand and Cambodia and Indonesia to India to Uzbekistan. His collection covered this entire span. My question to you is, can you provide the answer to this mystery? Did ikat come to us from Southeast Asia, or did it go from here to Southeast Asia? This is an unresolved issue.
Sorry, I missed that question.
The ikat textile tradition,
Yes.
did it come to us from Southeast Asia, or did it go from us to Southeast Asia? I haven't found an answer yet.
Don't worry, none of us have found an answer.
Okay.
The thing is, it's quite extraordinary because we have the beautiful double ikat in Bali that you are familiar with.
Right.
That extraordinary piece of work. Now, there is also very beautiful ikat which is done in Central Asia. And there is ikat all over Southeast Asia. It's very difficult to say where did it come from. You see, the tying and dyeing of this warp and the weft thread, if it is a single warp, then it's a single ikat or a simple thing. But a double ikat is extraordinary, where each dyed thread has to be put straight onto the other one to be able to create the pattern. And there is a kind of a shimmering effect because the line is not completely clean cut. It is rippling effect like water. Ikat, you find Cambodia has a different style, and different islands all over have different styles. And in India itself, we have very beautiful, you come from Orissa, which has
Yes, of
one
course. We're
of
proud of Ikat here.
sorry?
I said we are very proud of our Ikat tradition in Odisha.
Absolutely. I mean, the double ikat which is created and the sacred cloth which is created, and they make that lovely double ikat, and in case if there is a lack of a sacred space for worship, they enclose the space with that ikat, which creates the sacred impact on all of us.
Right.
So who is one to say where it comes from?
Mhm.
It's very difficult to, all of us have been trying to find this out.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Hans.
Yes.
Jasleen, sorry, did someone want to ask?
Yes, can I say?
Yeah, if
Yes,
I
please.
could. Is there someone else? Sorry, I can't see.
This is Hamida. Jasleen.
Yes, Hamida Appa, I was going to talk about you, in fact.
Can I just say hello to my old friend?
I'm
Can you
sorry.
see me, Jasleen?
Amida Hussain.
From Bangladesh, from
Dhaka.
Dhaka.
Who is this?
Hamida
Hamida.
Hussain from Dhaka.
Oh, Hamida, you are here?
Not exactly physically, but I can see you. And I
Oh, how
was
wonderful.
fascinated by your talk. I think you're the 20th century Marco Polo. So you should write down your travels and illustrate it with the clothes that you've. But I have another question, Jasleen. What do you think about this practice of having patents and having geographical indicators? Should countries now become possessive about the kind of work that is being done in
Well,
each
I need you
country?
to eat.
Should they enter into this kind of competition, whether this is Indian or Indonesian or Bangladeshi? That is my
I'm
question.
sorry, Hamida. You are, can you repeat your question, please?
I was wondering what you think of the idea of having geographical indicators. So you have patents over folk traditions and folk crafts.
Well, you see, it's very controversial.
Yes.
Like, for instance, the Jamdani, some people claim that this is comes from Bangladesh, but it was also being woven in Uttar Pradesh, and a very fine quality Jamdani. There was very fine quality woven cotton, which used to be woven in Andhra Pradesh. Now, it is true that we have copied and we have perhaps taken, and there is need to protect. But I feel that we have come a long way and we have all contributed greatly. Like, for instance, you take the ikat, the question that Lalit asked. Now, ikat, which is made in Gujarat, the Patan Patola, it came, according to some of us, from the southern part, because southern part of India has a lot of ikat work, which is done in a number of centers, unlike in North India, where ikat technique is only to be found in Gujarat. So we can't sort of say, we can't say ikat is only done in Gujarat. We can't say this is done only or chicken curry, which is done in Lucknow, was also done in Vishnupur. So I am not very, I don't like controversies. I think that we should develop, enrich, rather than trying to restrict.
Good for you.
But before I lose you, Hamida, I would like to see you, my dear, before you disappear.
Before any of us go away.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't.
This is
Nandita, you have to unmute yourself. After Amba. I think Amba Sanyal has a... Yeah.
What is this?
hello, Jasleen.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I am Amba.
You are?
Amba.
Amba Sanyal, daughter of Bhavesh Sanyal.
Amba, the most talented of young women.
Jasleen, it's so wonderful to hear you. Have you compiled your stories of your encounters around the world, the people and their connections to the cultural artifact like the textile? The textile of each area where you have traveled, and how the textile is a part of their life, the stories you must have collected about that. Have you compiled those stories?
I'm afraid I have not compiled them, but there are a number of people who have been working. One of the persons who has done tremendous work is Archana Shah of Bandej. I mean, she has traveled with the weavers, embroiderers, manufacturers, and collected a number of stories. People all over India have done a lot of work. I'm not the only one.
But
And
you
there are all over in Bangladesh where, and then many of the objects which are created. I mean, look at the kantas which are created in Bengal, in East Bengal, in West Bengal, and then in other parts of India are so many. They are telling a lot of stories. The wonderful part is that there are a number of women and men that I know who are fascinated by and have done tremendous amount of research and work. So I have not made a specific, but I have written so many books, given so many lectures, written so many articles. Yes, in a way I have. I call my head my encyclopedia. And people have talked about publishing and not losing the work. Another person who's done fantastic work is no longer with us is Lutika
Yes.
Vardarajan. And the interesting thing is that National Museum has set up a people who are working there, all her research, and she's done tremendous amount of research. there are institutions which have done tremendous amount of research. Don't make it look like I'm something special. Yes, I've done work.
All joined.
But there are others who are done tremendous work.
I just wanted to hear your stories because you are unique the way you have traveled and been to so many, participated in so many cultures. So your experience is unique. And those stories would be lovely to hear.
Thank you, darling. I wish.
Next time. You go and have a drink with her, she will tell you. Nandita.
Nandita, you had a.
Yes, Jasleen ji, I don't know if you can see me. I'm Nandita. We met many years ago. I'm Jatin Das's daughter. We met probably 3 decades ago. Can you hear me?
When she was a baby.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Who cannot hear you? Who cannot feel you, Nandita, special woman?
So many questions have come to my mind, but more than that, great admiration. I think I join everyone in just feeling overwhelmed. The question that is really in my mind is that, many of us, when we see this beautiful textile, your presentation, while we were in awe, there was also a sense of mourning that where has all this gone? Dadi also asked about it. And many of us probably felt that it's such a pity that our handlooms and handicrafts are vanishing. We are not caring about it. We sometimes become cynical. But when you talk, having seen the best and the worst, there is so much positivity. There's still so much hope. You're still acknowledging that there are so many others, younger people who are carrying forth. I can see Radhi Parekh here from Artisans. There's Amrita Somaya. There's Pankaja Sethi. So many of you are here. And what gives you that hope? And I see that of your generation. I'm envious when I see, whether it's Bim Bisil who's here, Hamida Appa from Dhaka, all of you exude a sense of optimism and hope. So please inspire us and tell us, how do you do that, having seen the best and the worst?
Well, I personally feel that many things have developed in the last 20, 30 years, which had died out. I mean, one of the most extraordinary things which I failed to revive was the Kani shawl. And this has been revived by people in Kashmir. And one of the most important is Jenny Housego and her partner, Asif, and other colleagues have got together and have woven the Kani shawl once again. Exquisite, fine. I take my hats off to them. The Baluchar sari exhibition that was organized by Darshan Shah and which I helped to put up, and the international seminar that we had, was a tremendous contribution. And a large number of things have been created. They say that 90% of handloom woven cloths in the world are woven in India. Nearly, like the women weavers of northeast area of India, they all are weavers, hundreds of them. And, I always tell them that you put life into the fabrics, that you see the way that is the lion loom. Your lion is your thighs. And they tie and create the tension for the war by tying their one side, in the waist, and the other side, either a peg across or the wall across, and then stretched out. They breathe in and they give attention to the wall, and that tension, and then they release it, and using their fingers or a little needle like bobbin, they weave in the designs and the motifs. And it is in a way like a form of, of breathing. It's a form of yoga, of you breathe in and you breathe out. You breathe in the pattern into the depth of the cloth. And in a way, it comes from within you and you create. And that is what is so extraordinary. I have been working for 60 years. And my greatest involvement was with weaving of fabrics, printing, kalamkari. And I have seen very, very fine textiles which were not being done in the last many years, which have been revived again. I don't feel pessimistic. I feel optimistic. And I am sure that if only some help could be forthcoming, more than what is being done, an understanding of the depth of knowledge of our master weavers, master printers, master creators, we would still continue a long way.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Debbie Swallow, Dr. Deborah Swallow has also messaged on the group, and Jasleen, I wanted to just read it out. Dear Jasleen, it was just lovely to see you and really wonderful to hear your talk and see the highlights of your collection and something of your travels. Those who have referred to you as a national treasure are right. But it's more than that. Your love and championship of textiles is of huge international significance, and this remains an ongoing need. Hoping to be back in India as soon as this pandemic permits us to travel and see you. Warmest love, Debbie Swallow. She's also here, but she is hidden. she's also listening to you. So,
thank you, Debbie. What a wonderful person you are. And what a wonderful work you have done. We have this community, baradari of textile lovers. And it's a love intense and shared by men and women alike in all over the world. And it's wonderful to be here with you. You have all heard me. So you know that I'm not the same old Jasleen who used to lecture extempore. And I may be presumptuous to say that, I did hold my audience in the palm of my hand. But I don't have that energy. I also forget things. You won't believe it, but I'm 87.
Wow.
And yet,
Full of life.
I have managed to speak to you. And I must thank Siddharth, who persuaded me, because I didn't want to speak. I didn't think I had it in me. But after I have spoken, not as well as before, but still not bad.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Are there any other questions that you have, anyone? Otherwise,
No, I just want to say that for JDCA, I'm seeing many new faces. So thanks to you, we've managed to get all these wonderful people. And I hope you will continue to come to our these sessions, which is every second Saturday of every month, where we bring a wonderful person like Jasleen ji who share their work and their journeys. So I hope that many of you will come back to us. And this is also going to be on YouTube. We are trying to archive these stories, just as Amba said that you should document these stories. Those who really travel and experience, I think, don't really worry about documenting and collecting. But that's also the beauty of it, or maybe that's where lies the contradiction. But we are very, very grateful to you for what you do and for being on this platform. I hope you will donate some of your masterpieces to JDC as well. We also have a reasonably large collection of handlooms, and I hope we can do justice to your collection as well in Odisha. I'm sure Siddharth has told you more about JDCA. But yes, I just want to thank you. And yes, last words from our founder chairman.
Jasleen is a very dear friend, and I'm seeing her after many years, and it's my fault that I haven't gone to see her. I remember two things regarding weaving. That is, Kamala Devi used to tell Jatin, because the sari has raped, the weavers are there because women of India wear saris. As simple as that. Then I remember another anecdote in Sambalpur in Orissa, where the man is holding the thread and the wife come to tell him that it's 3:30 now, we have not had lunch. Then he says, I'm holding a thread which I have to weave before that I can't come to lunch. So the dedication of these weavers and of our traditional thing. And one thing, I'm very happy today, and I'm a restless person. Seeing you after such a long time, and your warmth and your affection.
Oh, it got muted. Siddharth, it got muted. Yeah.
Sorry?
Your last line got muted.
you're welcome.
I want to say something.
Yeah, please.
That I feel that we take shortcomes to various things. And I think the way in which this has been organized, I am seated far away from where all of you are seated. Maybe we should have been together.
Indeed.
We should have been face to face, and we should have been able to communicate
Indeed.
much better.
Yes.
So maybe in your future programs, it's not such a great effort.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
To do this.
Before I forget, I just want to mention A. Ramachandran, the famous painter who lives in New Delhi, and he's going to talk about his work next time on the second Saturday of March 2021. So please remember A. Ramachandran, and he's known as A. Ramachandran Nair, but he's only known as Ramachandran, a veteran artist who is also in his mid-80s and a dear friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jasleen, very much. Thank you for such a lovely session. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.